Now let's start off a little bit. Some of what our team and others have been documenting is the prevalence of pornography that we see in society today. And the fact that you're here tells me that this isn't a news story perhaps, but again, some of the evidence, some of the data that helps us realize that we're not making mountains out of molehills, so to speak. There's plenty to give us evidence of the real concern that we should have here. Sex is reported to be the most frequently searched topic on the internet. We continue to see that time and time again. In fact, of the search engine requests that we see, almost 70 million a day, 25% of those are pornographic searches. If we look at this in dollar amounts, we see that the pornography industry now is generating about $100 billion annually worldwide, with approximately $15 billion in revenue from the United States alone. This is much, much more than we see from other entertainment industries, from the sports industries, from all those types of things. When we put that into perspective, most of us get into terms of billions, and we lose track of what's happening, what's occurring. So the prevalence of it is out there. Why is it happening? Where's the proliferation coming from? This becomes important because if we're going to be able to safeguard our children and our teens, we have to understand where much of this is coming. Scholars are understanding more and more that it's tied to our rapidly changing technology context. In fact, doing research now in the area of pornography, you can make a cut in about the late 90s, and everything before it you can cut out of your need for review because things have changed so dramatically and are so different that you can't even really draw too much of a comparison from those time periods and those settings. These changes in technology, these moves to the internet, to pay-per-view movies, to the way that this is being distributed, has created what Cooper, one of our leading scholars in the country on pornography, is advocated as a AAA engine to help us understand this increasing proliferation and prevalence of pornography. The AAA is that now we see pornography accessible, affordable, and perceived, we'll emphasize that and talk about this in a minute, perceived as anonymous in our consumption. But in so doing, we now see these patterns where accessing pornography now is greatly different than it was even one generation ago. And it's completely different than if we take this back several decades ago. Pornography's always been with us in society, even back into ancient times, but it's tended to be found on the periphery, on the outside. Now we see through these changes in these contexts it being in the mainstream, and it's changing the context of safeguarding, changing the context of helping our children in dramatic ways, and it's putting new requirements, new needs upon parents and families in ways that are dramatically changing. And sometimes my fear is that we're not nearly as quick to respond or to be knowledgeable or to be aware. Let's talk for just a minute to know what the newest technology shifts are. We're right in the middle of a new one. It's just happening in these last few years. It's what myself and a few pornography scholars have labeled pocket porn. It's our move to wireless technology, literally making pornography now available anywhere. Even behind the barn in Kansas, you can't get away from pornography. Imagine what that means. That means that any time one child, one teen, one young adult has access to a wireless device, that group of friends, that group of individuals could also have access to pornography. Pornography can be brought into the schools now and into public settings in ways that it never used to be. Yes, in previous times, kids would sneak a magazine into school or something like that, always under the risk of being caught with that. And how do they keep that hidden? Now it's a button push away from completely disappearing. Changes the context, changes the monitoring completely. Some of the new research is also showing us that the technology shifts we have towards people spending more and more time on social networking sites and using social networking media is also playing a part in the prevalence and proliferation of pornography. That's not to say that everything on those sites is pornography. And we could have a whole discussion about the content we can find on many social networking sites. Not our purpose tonight. The key here is understanding people are spending more and more time of their lives online, plugged in the virtual world, so to speak, where pornography is always one click away. it's closer, it's more accessible. So we see these patterns as well. We're also starting to understand that the pornography industry is just that, an industry that has sophisticated marketing and tunneling procedures as they move and work to do this. It's anything but a fragmented and disjointed group of single proprietors and individuals. It is indeed an industry operating as such. And as one word of caution, as we talk tonight, while we may focus and think about our young men and our boys, please know that the new strategies, the new shift right now is to target women. Women are seen as the untapped market, the potential market for expanding the pornography industry now. Many of these new efforts are looking at ways to package pornography in new ways, ways that women will perhaps find more acceptable. These involve making them more narrative-based. There needs to be a storyline. There needs to be characters. There needs to be people that you follow. So you can kind of envision soap operas that go just a little bit further, which is shocking because they already go far enough, right? Tying them into romantic themes, and the other trend is to package them as educational materials, as a way to actually strengthen your relationship, as a way to keep the spark alive in your relationship. So if it's an educational material, if that's the purpose, if it's about my marriage, not turning away from my marriage, then will I be more likely to accept it? Only time will tell of how successful these new strategies are, but this is what the pornography industry is openly talking about now as the new strategies, the new approach.